It's fine. So, but that's why you don't necessarily want to attach to yourself to a number, because maintaining or even getting lesser than that number is not going to yield the look that you want. So being comfortable with gaining weight has something that is kind of new to me. Like, again, it may seem a little bit obnoxious that I'm like, oh, I've gone from extra small to small leggings, but that's a big jump for me. You know, it's a bigger size. But then again, if you can maintain the shape that you have, which only comes from weightlifting and strength training, then it doesn't seem so gross. Whereas in the past, when I didn't have so much muscle and I actually gained weight, it looked very soft. It didn't look like I lifted as much. I've been able to maintain the shape. You can see I still have abs and I'm getting heavier. He wants to push it as far as we can until I get really uncomfortable. So I need my dresses to fit when I do events this summer. Otherwise, like, that's really all I need. But 4.5 kilos is a lot of weight. If you think about it as like, if I gain 4.5 kilos of fat, I'd look a lot different than if I were gaining 4.5 kilos of glycogen and water and some muscle and some fat. You're not going to ever gain 0% fat when you go into a growth phase. It's impossible. Even on all the steroids and drugs that you can think of, it is not possible.
That is
There's a reason.
That's something really important to touch on, because I get it a lot where like, this is actually going to cue into the first thing I wanted to talk about with diet breaks and reverse dieting. It's people go so slow because they try to not gain any fat whatsoever. But the thing is, you can never, ever, ever gain muscle without fat. Like, it comes one in part of the parcel. Like, even if you go really slow, yeah, okay, you might stay lean and lean gain, but fat still comes with that. There is no escaping. And the big thing to remember on this as well is it's maintenance, and diet breaks aren't putting you into a massive surplus. And this is the whole bulk and cut cycle that I hate. Like we were talking about before, this photo shoot, this bodybuilding thing. But the thing is, the photo shoot stuff isn't something that most people even care for. They just want to look good every single day, not just for one day. So don't even go thinking that, okay, cool, I'm going to do a photo shoot, that I'm not going to compete for a comp. Like, why do you need to do something like that? Like, why? What's the why? What's the why? Because a lot of the time you just don't like where you are right now, and you are so uncomfortable with where you are right now that all you want to do is do some drastic fix because you don't have any control over any other thing in life. Like so many people, they just want to clean everything up, feel like they're in control of something. They don't have any worth, and they're like, well, I can do something really quick, get ready for this date. So why don't I just rush to this date, and then I can just go back to my chaos? Can you make sense of that? Go back to my chaos. Like, go back to my chaos. Okay, cool. Then what's going to happen with the body after you go back to your chaos? Like, you need to take it slow and bring your whole life with you. Otherwise, you're going to be chasing these extremes all the time and never actually being happy with where you are, because you never address the chaos that isn't just in your environment, but it's in your damn head. But anyway.
Yeah. No, I think it's like, because we were there, right? And I think the chaos comes from some other trigger that they have usually. Like, I think a show gives them something, like people who say they need that motivation. They have something that they're striving for. The problem lies in when they see that as an end point, and then they go crazy. I mean, the one show that I did in 2011, I think I had like 12 cupcakes, a jar of Nutella. Like, no one told me you're not supposed to eat like that after. And I was like, oh. And I went to train clients the next week, and like, they're like, are you on prednisone? And I was like, why? Because I was so bloated from I ate everything because I was so deprived. And I was like, well, show's over. Like, and I only wanted to do it just to do it and get the pictures and get out. And now I look back at those photos and I'm like, oh my God, like I looked awful. But no one teaches you that stuff. And so it's the external validation of doing a show. Like, you know, I did that. People came and watched me. So, you know, why did I need that? And then I actually connected that through therapy later in life. Like, it always comes back to something in childhood or some traumatic event. And then you have the social media bombardment, and then the media saying you can lose X amount of weight very quickly. So they don't usually give coaches enough time, or themselves, if they have a wedding or if they have something else, where they're like, yeah, Ruby, I've got 4 weeks to get ready for this huge event, and the person is over 30% body fat. It's very hard because in our heart, we want to help this person really badly. But our mind also knows that if we give them what they want only, the aftermath is going to be very upsetting. So we have two options. We can explain these are the ramifications if we do a very hard crash diet. I'm not a fan. It's not part of my integrity. These are the ramifications. If we don't, we go slower. You may not lose X amount of pounds, but you may look different and be happy with the way you look.
And you can actually grow in the process. And in growing in the process, you actually gain the confidence that you wanted, and you can actually not feel so attached to numbers and feel so attached to outcomes, which is something we keep ourselves stuck with the point where, okay, cool, but now I'm still in a dieting mindset. I'm not letting myself, like Ali said, we don't let ourselves build for long enough. And, you know, that was my struggle with Luke. Like, I never wanted to build for long enough. I had, like, I have this it's 4-pronged approach to gaining muscle. Number one, you're too scared to even leave your dieting calories when you need to. Number two, you are, but a few weeks in, you want to go back to dieting and then you start doing it backwards again. Number three, you go into building, but you don't allow yourself to actually build and to grow and push it into the discomfort. It's like you go and then you just stop there. And then the fifth one is you go about it all the wrong way in terms of, actually, this is one that I'm going to bring in now for the next segue into the topic. You think that you can force feed your building phase, and you don't realize that the building doesn't come from what you eat. The building doesn't come from how much protein you get in, how much carbs you get in, how much you do this, how much you do that. It's because we are so tight on everything we want to do to lose weight, and that's the mindset we stay stuck with, that we don't put 100% into what it takes to build. And that's the way that we train. And Ali and I were talking before this podcast on just ways that people train that are so not conducive to muscle building. And it seems like the topic that everyone really wants to talk about, because I put so many polls in my stories as of late talking about, do you want to know about muscle? Like, that's actually the thing that's getting, I actually feel really happy every time I see it, that's the thing that people want to know more about, like how to build muscle. Yes. But the thing is, people, like, as much as you want to build muscle, you still don't know the actual process to get there. It's either the fact that you're not in a place to put yourself into the situation of building muscle, like you have fat to lose first. But a lot of the time we're stuck in this chronic dieting mindset that we want to build muscle, but we want to do it with like high reps and doing flippy floppy bullshit. Like, what was the reason for you doing your training that way? Like, talk about how to go about the building phase in a way that isn't falling into this whole like bodybuilding spectrum of bulk and cut, because there is no bulk and cut. There's live your life, eat to serve your goals, which is to build some muscle. It's not to bulk and it's not to cut. It's like, okay, now we need to get rid of some fat. Now we need to build some muscle. Like, stop speaking about it in these terms that make you feel like a robot and it's all to do with numbers, because your maintenance calories change. Your cutting calories will always change, and your building calories will always change. Even within a month it might, because your activity changes or something happens. So take that away. We
have less than a minute.
Do you want to start again? Let's start again. Put back on. That's fucked.
It's all right. I know what I'm going to say.